We are back here on the program. It's John Pollock and Robin Black with you. Coming up Sunday night, August 23rd, the UFC is venturing into Saskatoon, Saskatchewan for the very first time. Competing on that card is Chris Kelades, who joins us on the line right now, getting set for a flyweight encounter with Chris Beal. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic. Looking forward to the UFC's return to Canada. Now, I understand you've been down in Florida, correct, in preparation for this fight?
Yeah, I'm training here at American Top Team in Coconut Creek, so southern Florida. It's been pretty good. The weather's nice. No complaints.
And as part of the main motivation, you've got great training up at home, but as part of the main motivation, having body types and different guys of your size to work with?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different small guys here, which is nice. They got a good stable of guys. And just getting away, having the focus, and, not having those things that can interrupt you when you got your comforts of home. It's a double-edged sword, though, because it's hard to be away from everything, but at the same time, just having that time to focus and, get your ass beat all the time here is pretty good.
It was such a whirlwind for you ahead of the Paddy Houlihan fight, where fight week began and you were going to be watching the fight in the crowd. Did you kind of get to sink in everything of just what a big platform you're on? I mean, so many fighters, they'll talk about that first fight in the UFC. I mean, you really didn't have time for any of that. Did you go through a lot of that the second time around where you had the full camp and you knew weeks and weeks out that you had this fight coming up with Ray Borg?
Yeah, I mean, it was complete opposite ends of the spectrum, really. Throughout my, history of fighting, I've never really had a huge amount of time to get ready for a fight. So I've kind of grown accustomed to that. So getting thrown in the mix like that is not really a big deal for me because I'm the kind of guy that stays in the gym and stays pretty much ready all the time. So that whole scenario was it was perfect, really, and probably more advantageous to me than to get an opponent dropped on you last minute. Going back to the last fight, it was definitely a little more difficult having that much time to prepare for a fight. It was almost 3 months or more, and I think that just weighed on me mentally a little bit and physically because you don't really know, how hard to push and when. So it was a new experience. It was a learning curve. Definitely, this time around having, like that 6-7 weeks to get ready is a little more to my favor, I think.
People probably don't have the ability to put themselves in this thought, but when you have 3 months, you've basically booked yourself a car accident with a professional athlete in front of everybody, and every day and every hour and every meal and every sleep is in some way affected by that date. Is that accurate? Is that kind of how you felt for that last fight?
Yeah, definitely. It's like you don't know, when to start dieting, when to start pushing, how to peak, because you've done it a certain way and you don't have to think about all those intricacies that you have to when you've got 3 months. And, like I said, it was something to learn from, that's for sure. And moving forward, I'll kind of know how to react to that again. But, definitely I don't mind the short notice ones. I'm mentally strong that way, so you could throw me in the middle of a war and I'll be ready, So
how is the environment at ATT? Has that shaped things a little differently, being around other coaches, other fellow UFC fighters, and how has that kind of shaped you going into now your third UFC appearance on the 23rd?
It's been good. I mean, everybody here is great to train with. There's a lot to learn just from your training partners. I mean, the group of guys that are here, it's pretty incredible. And then the coaching staff, you've got, different styles for the same type of thing over and over again. You got so many different striking coaches, wrestling and jiu-jitsu. And so, I mean, you can kind of diversify and add to or tweak, what you've been doing. And that's kind of where I'm at. There's a lot of things that I think that I have done and do well, and I've just kind of tweaked them and changed a few things, and it's been good to have that, to have that experience for sure.
Has there been any kind of one area or, whether it's a series of techniques or a particular way to approach a range or a fighting area that you actually have seen look at very differently than you did before you went to ATT, whether it's wrestling or cage work? Is there any one area that suddenly you were like, wow, this is different than I thought?
I mean, just their approach to training for MMA, for mixed martial arts as a fighter, because when you come from a smaller gym or whatnot, I mean, there's a lot of members, there's a lot of people that aren't fighters, so it's always the delicate balance of training a specific discipline, but not with the intent always of, okay, this is for a fight. So when you're in this position, so positional things and being able to use those positional things based just for MMA has kind of been cool and a good experience, because at this level, that's bridging those things together, and those finer points are the things that make or break a fight. You could be the best grappler in the world, but if you don't know how to mix that with the wrestling and pinning and picking those positions and your opportunities, then it doesn't matter how well. It's all about implementing what it is that you know, and I think that's what I've learned a lot of the most here.
Now, Chris, can you share with us this story? Your first night in Florida, you had a run-in apparently with a crackhead that you had to subdue. What exactly happened here?
I called him a crackhead. I don't really know. There was a fight going on between a guy and a girl. There was two small kids, and I kind of hung around there. I was getting on the elevator. They were supposedly getting on the elevator too, but things escalated pretty quickly between the two of them, and I was trying to figure out who was more crazy. There was they were both going at it pretty strong, so I quickly realized that he was probably the crazy one. And some things happened, and he was pushing around, and they got out of control. And anyways, I just rear naked him to put him to sleep, chilled the situation down a little bit, and everybody went on their way. The cops were called and whatnot, but Buddy was an Olympic runner, and once he woke up and got to his feet, he was gone.
Crack can make you run pretty fast, I hear. But have you ever trained with Eddie Bravo? He has a position actually called crackhead control you could have used.
Yeah, I've heard of the crackhead control. I've seen that, but I had to let him up because the staff didn't want me to hold him down like that. So I was, I knew what he was going to do. I could see what he was working with, but I did my job. My thing was just I wanted to kind of nullify the situation and make something happen other than seeing punches thrown and these little kids here watching it. So I did my job and felt okay about it. So in the end, I guess it all worked out the way it was supposed to.
Oh, there you go. It's always us Canadians that are trying to subdue problems internationally and abroad, such as Chris Kelades. Now, as we look ahead towards Chris Beal on Sunday night, August 23rd, it's going to be going down in Saskatoon. The flyweight division is a really interesting one, Chris, because, I mean, we've got a dominant champion, and it seems that, a few spectacular performances, you're able to leapfrog your way up significantly because there's been so many guys in that top 10 that DJ has already fought at this point. The weight class has to be interesting from that respect. That, I mean, it's not like you're looking at needing 6 or 7 wins to get a title fight. It's probably half of that. It's very easy, not easy, but in terms of just being able to make a fast impact, it's there at 125 pounds.
Yeah, it's definitely a division that's growing, and I mean, there's some, in that top 10, there's some pretty strong talent too. So, one fight at a time, and you just kind of see where the next one leads you. But definitely, it's that kind of division. Obviously, much like the 35-pound division is the women's division, where they're newer, smaller weight classes, and they're still developing. Even though they have dominant champs, they're still developing, and it'll be interesting to see, the next year or so how things end up. So we'll take this fight, give Chris Beal a good going over, and we'll go from there.
When you do take a look at him, his best moment was at 135, a really nice flying knee that he landed, and his striking looks solid. Is there anything specific you look at and think, I'd really like to play this area with him, or you'd want to test him in any certain places, or is it go in and feel where it goes and be ready everywhere? Is there a strategy?
Being ready everywhere is kind of always my strategy, and just, because I've had game plans, and, you go in and then you end up not even doing anything remotely close to the game plan. You just pull something out of a hat sometimes. So you got to look, I guess, and see, because, you can plan specifically for someone, but they may not react the same way that you think they're going to, or they may be stronger, or they may be faster. And he's a super athletic guy. So, he's got power in his hands at 35 and speed and, all those good things. I don't know if he looked his greatest at 25 in his debut, but I expect him to look, like he did at 35, only at 25, this being the second go for him. So, just he's an athletic guy, and I'm prepared for, I've looked at all the angles as far as what he can present, and I think that I have more answers. So I'm excited to see how this goes.
Quick question. Just, here you are in your third UFC fight. You're at ATT. You're down in Florida. You're talking to people about your fight, and you're fighting in Saskatchewan. Is this everything you'd imagined? Like, is it going exactly how you'd imagine it would be when you were a legit UFC fighter?
I'll be honest, the first fight is about as far as I thought to. And it sounds crazy, and I've said it before, but that first fight, and maybe not exactly the way that it happened, but that's kind of what I envisioned. Is like, okay, fight of the night, maybe short notice, blah, 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 like that. None of that was a big surprise to me. So now it's kind of reevaluating and being like, okay, so we've already done what you've been dreaming of for the last number of years. Now what are you going to do, Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's little pinch me moments, but you got to stay focused, and I got to put some goals together on, now I want to be here and I want to be there, and just keep moving forward. And I don't know if it feels or ever will feel normal, because you don't really know what to expect, and it's always so changing. But it's definitely something that I'm excited for, because I've worked hard for it, and I believe that I belong here. And now it's just proving it.
Last question here, Chris, before we let you go. Is TJ Grant going to be there on fight night? And is there anything, it seems like the door has somewhat been closed at this point regarding TJ Grant. It's not a name that we're always hearing as much about. Is fighting in the rear view now for TJ?
I don't know. To be honest, he's been so busy, and I've been away. We haven't really chatted a whole lot like we have in the past. You kind of have to put that to him.
Right.
I think, in the back of his mind, he'll always want to fight, and I think timing is everything, and, hopefully the right time will come when he can do it again. And, personally speaking, I would love to see him fight again.
Sure.
And, but you got to have that drive and desire, and it's got to be the right timing. And I think that if that, presents itself to him, he'll definitely take the bull by the horns. So we'll see what the future holds.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. It is going down Sunday night, August the 23rd, from the SaskTel Center in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Chris Beal, Chris Kelades at 125 pounds. We wish you all the best going into fight week and on Saturday night, August 23rd. We appreciate it, Chris.
All right. Thanks, guys.